Yulsic coming up soon.
我下一个对手是 Yulsic， 我看过他的卡组，我觉得我可能会有点优势。
佢係一個強嘅對手。
到了嘉年华，每一场比赛可能都会比较难，就没有容易的比赛。虽然说我觉得自己有优势吧，但是不会是容易，就不会很容易的。我觉得 Yulsic 最后的卡组对我来说应该是动物园吧，我的卡组对他的动物园都比较優勢。
佢有 Feast Mage 呢副牌而家係好弱嘅，但係咁啱我啲牌有少少怕。
那 Yulsic 只能说对不起，我觉得这个比赛需要传来 No.1， 所以我只能赢，从现在开始只能赢，不能输了。
佢啱啱話自己 try 啦 No.1 啊，我就要贏你啦。
Match number 3 is coming up, and they're all decider matches here today. Someone will be moving on, and some will be going home. Nathan, that's Admiral Zamora, joined by James Firebat Kostasich, and you've been doing a lot of analysis about these deck lineups prior to this.
Yeah, I've been going over the specific tech cards, looking in depth on what kind of makes each deck tick. I don't know the exact percentages of the matchups because they're obviously not decks that I've grinded hundreds of games on, but you know, I've been kind of predicting things, and I got my nice spreadsheet that I've plugged everything into, and for me, I think Breath has an edge with 57% chance to win based on lineups alone. And you know, there's a lot more factors other than lineups that go into deciding who wins a Hearthstone game, but I would give him a slight edge. He's got a pretty good game plan here with targeting out Shamans, but that also, the way that he's chosen to target out Shamans with decks like Face Hunter and the Freeze Mage also line up really well to target out Zoo. And Yulsic has both the Shaman and the Zoo, which is what is kind of giving him this sort of big edge. Whereas Yulsic's kind of big overall game plan strategy is to kind of punish warriors a little bit, which he can, you know, exploit Breath's warrior, but he doesn't also exploit another one of Breath's deck with this game plan.
So it's a multiple counter. It's giving him the Firebat seal of approval where the edge is concerned.
Yeah, I think so. Breath has a pretty good lineup going forward for the tournament, and if he's able to face against more of the players that are also bringing Zoo Warlock, which a lot of the players remaining in the tournament are, then he'll continue to have lineup success. But you got to actually play the games out to win.
Indeed you do, and we're starting off with Druid versus Druid. Of course, ramp a big key factor to this matchup. But looking at the tech choices, it's pretty darn close to a mirror match, except for the fact that Breath has a copy of Yogg-Saron, where Yulsic has a copy of Ancient of War. So foregoing the come-from-behind mechanic in favor of just a consistent board stopper. And then, of course, the Baron Geddon that's in Breath's deck, so also an additional threat there.
Well, Yulsic has the Ragnaros to make up for that loss of threat. So Ragnaros a little bit of a better threat than Baron Geddon for the matchup, but he does kind of lose points in the matchup by not having that Yogg as a comeback mechanism, as it's so powerful to swing the board against Druid with Yogg.
Yulsic with a few options here. Kind of a slow and steady build. Honestly, with looking at the hands, I feel like this is a little bit in Yulsic's favor, but that Azure Drake is a big telling point of this. The next two draws for Breath are going to be absolutely massive.
And I mean, after this Wild Growth, Yulsic doesn't have very much action going on in his hand. It's all just reactive things besides, I guess, the Mire Keeper. He's debating whether or not he wants to even Wild Growth. He's going to save it. At this point, it looks like just to cycle later on. So it's more of like ramp up now with the Mire Keeper, use your reactionary tools to kind of stall you through the mid game, and then try and outvalue your opponent in the late game by, you know, cycling Wild Growths and what have you.
It also just gives you a 3/3 on board. So you're exchanging coin for a 3/3, and I think that's totally reasonable. Like here now, he's responding to the Azure Drake, which this is slated for swipe almost certainly, and then now he starts pushing some damage.
Sure, yeah. Every little bit of chip damage adds up over time, and then you build towards that Malagos combo, or he's going to just opt to get in the Wild Growth now, lead up his mana count. This makes almost every card off the top playable, especially with the Innervate in his hand. So,
yeah, I believe it does make every card except for Malagos playable.
Even Malagos He gets up to 9
7.
mana.
Oh, you're right. He's
Yeah.
going into 7. I thought we were going into 6 for some reason.
And he doesn't have Yogg. The only question is how much is Arcane Giant discounted, and I believe it's enough to be playable. So every card off the top can be playable, but for Yulsic, he's just really hoping not to draw Moonfire at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, this is the state where drawing real action cards is super important. It's the relying on the density of the deck.
Yeah, and
to get the job done.
We've seen a lot of players take this kind of matchup in a bunch of different directions, and it's really about feeling your hand out and feeling out which kind of stance you need to take, and if your deck can actually play a value game, because a lot of the times if you don't have Yogg Saron in your deck, which we can see Yulsic does not have Yogg Saron, you can't afford to play the slow game and try and go for the value and try and just outvalue your opponent, because if they get too far ahead, you have no punish for that.
Right.
Whereas if you actually do have the Yogg Saron, you can kind of take that alternate game route where you just play slow, play to value, grind your opponent out. If they overextend onto the board, you punish with Yogg Saron and just win that value game at the end. That option's not available to Yulsic, so I really enjoy or agree with the fact that he's just extending onto the board. I still think it's like worth the risk because he can't afford to play from behind.
No, I totally agree with that. I'm just laughing at the idea that you're officially becoming a caster when you call out what the worst draw in the deck is, and they draw it like seemingly every single time.
Yeah,
it's not one of those things you point out all the time. You're like, just sometimes you point them out. It's just a weird situation.
He gets punished for what he's done, but even though that is the max punish possible, look at how much damage he's pushing. Already got breath down to 17, and he can't afford to play from behind based on how the deck lists are constructed.
And this was largely a decision to coin out the Mire Keeper.
Yeah, that's when this whole aggression plan kind of started for him. And
that's a nice one.
Yeah, now he's getting rewarded for it. He's going to look to try and maintain pressure.
Malygos,
I
think, is the key draw.
Oh, yeah. The closer.
Yep. Nourish isn't bad, though. How much time does he have here? Like, at this point, he's got enough damage in hand that I feel like he can slow this down a little and try to start finding Malygos. So Breath's going into 8 mana. You're not seeing a Malygos get plowed on the board. You're not worried about Ragnaros coming down. You know there's a Yogg Saron build. He's not playing from a steady board position. If he just slows it down right now and uses the other Nourish to draw, he can find himself time to get to Malygos. Maybe unlock a big turn with it.
Maybe. He probably needs, honestly, more chip damage from the board because there are 2 Feral Rages from both players in the builds of their Druids, which is 16 points of healing available at some stage, which can allow you to get outside of that Malygos burst range, which then makes the value game a lot more of a factor. And Yulsic really doesn't want it to turn into a strict value game with the way that the deck lists are built out.
That's one way to make that happen, is draw some Arcane Giants. Living Roots here is just, it's got to find spell. And it honestly needs to find something that can couple with Malygos, I feel like.
Yeah, I expect Yulsic to exhaust all of his mana, you know, removing this Azure Drake in some way and getting this Arcane Giant out for 0 mana, but he looks like he's just going to swipe Innervate it.
Yeah. Could also use the Raven Idol alongside of it.
Yeah, the Raven Idol
wants to wait,
free.
wants information.
Sure. Now he can wait until a minion's developed and then figure out, what do I need to make this happen? Maybe a taunt comes in the way and he needs single target removal. Maybe it doesn't and he can just find strict damage for lethal. So I like the decision to wait on it.
And there is the Baron Geddon, where you're saying that Ragnaros sometimes be a better threat here.
Yeah, Ragnaros, for this matchup anyway. Yeah. But other matchups, you know, the Baron Geddon works wonders, such as that Zoo and that Shaman we talked about earlier, where that's where Brett's lineup is going to shine.
Yep, you mentioned that holding the Raven Idol, if a minion comes out, he can figure it out a little bit better.
Yeah, now he knows exactly what he wants.
Well, good on Yulsic.
Yeah.
Nice job, Yulsic.
No mulch in the build from either player. They rely on Raven Idols to get single target removal.
Whoops. So now, how do you race this? That's the next question.
Very quickly. Very, very quickly. You don't got a lot of time. You got to figure out a game plan and start going.
I think an Azure Drake swipe face.
It's
sets up for the 13 from Malygos.
Yeah, it's very bold though, just because there are 2 Feral Rages in the build from Breath, and we haven't seen.
He's not going to win if he sees that though. Like, how is he going to establish value here? Is he going to tempo out Harrison Jones?
Yeah, has Breath used a swipe yet? I don't think he has.
I don't believe he has.
Yeah, so then the likelihood of swipe and the likelihood of Feral Rage are equal. So then you might as well try and just go all face and not play around either.
So he's using Wild Growth here. So what he's just looking for is the Malygos in particular?
And Arcane Giant. That's a
so Arcane Giant definitely does give you a way to play around Feral Rage now. For now, he's hoping that he does have Feral Rage and he doesn't have Swipe.
Yeah. Well, most definitely. The
Interesting spot.
That's not a swipe, but that's pretty good.
2 mana destroy something, draw a card is about as good as it's gonna get, man. This one doesn't destroy, or this one doesn't draw a card, but
You get to kill an 8/8 and then play an 8/8 if you.
yeah, it's
you're
all
in
right.
the mood.
It's okay, I guess. It's decent.
It's up there. It's honestly pretty expensive to do. Usually the Arcane Giant's cheaper, so you know you could complain a little bit, I guess.
Could he innervate Nourish and so
That
it'll become
is
3 after Wrath, and then
3
it'll become yeah, you can innervate Nourish.
Ah, that's more like it. Now
Yeah.
we're looking like a Druid turn.
If you're not drawing 3 cards, killing lots of creatures, and getting 8/8s, it's just
2 8/8s. There we go. Now we've really figured it out.
the mana for that.
Now he's 1 mana off, unfortunately.
So we needed a Raven Idol this turn.
Yeah. Needed any other 1 mana spell, like a glitch or something.
1 mana off of being a true Druid turn.
Yeah. Never lucky.
Yulsic, bad shape now.
The Ancient of War, which would have been a Yogg-Saron if they flip-flop, but Yulsic trying to target the Control Warrior, where Ancient of War is not going to be, or Ancient of War is going to be spectacular against the Control Warrior, just another threat that they need the hard removal for. But in this matchup, not really super ideal at this point. It could be helpful earlier on,
It's
but
pretty darn bad here.
yeah, in this specific juncture,
How much of a difference is it to have the Yogg-Saron versus not have the Yogg-Saron in this particular mirror match, though? I mean, so often it really boils down to the opening stages and then who's got the card draw. It's pretty rare that both players have everything, that they're fairly equally matched, and that you draw the card, that it ends up favorable, and that it needed to be Yogg-Saron.
well, a lot of the times you need either like a Yogg-Saron or a Mulch. Yogg-Saron I like more in the Druid Mirror because it gives you the ability to flexibly go for the other game plan of the value game plan rather than the kill them game plan. And then if you don't have Yogg-Saron or Mulch, then they can kind of freely develop a Malagos and you can have no way to answer it. But with one of those 2 tools, you'll have an answer.
And this is the situation where it abundantly clear it's better as Yogg-Saron. He just invested 4 spells to kill a Malagos, and now he actually just loses simply because it's a value game.
Yeah, exactly. So it's much harder to win the value game when you have absolutely no single target removal in your deck and you rely heavily on Raven Idols, but that's one of the costs of building your deck for a different matchup than what you're paired with.
Tech choices certainly making a difference in this one if you're in Yulsic's position. Not necessarily in the way that's intended. Hey! No, there's still nothing. There's way too much burst in Breath's hand.
Yeah, he has 12 damage burst from the hand and the ability to mulch through a taunt. So
Yep, that's going to do it. So Breath going to capture game number 1. Just strong scaling.
yeah,
Tough to beat.
it is tough to beat. He has a slight edge in the matchup, I'd say, based on what the tech choices were, but it's always still a Druid Mirror. It comes down to those things like Wild Growth and getting those Arcane Giants out there for a reduced cost. And
Both players started off fairly well in this one, though. Yulsic just, that Moonfire draw delayed a power turn by just a little bit. Wasn't able to find the situation where Malagos was a giant swing. Breath just very clean take.
yeah, Yulsic went super aggressive on the board because he has to. That's kind of how his build is. He can't play from behind with the tech choices he has, and then sort of fizzled out because he was so aggressively going for the board, and Breath capitalized on it.
Yeah, just one of those things. You're the aggressor in a matchup where you don't necessarily want to be. Sometimes it doesn't work out your way. We'll find out if it can work out his way. Game number 2 is coming up.
The Hearthstone World Championship is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
So you're a part of Team Celestial. You were the MVP.
Yeah.
Team Story Season 1, nice little bonus there for you. How has Team Celestial helped you out? It's sort of a little bit of a different team. Why don't you explain a little bit how that works?
其实我觉得 CL 其实不是一个队，它像是我们很多爱好者组成的一个，就是当时我们都在国服天梯能打到很前的玩家， 大家在一起的话，就你能从其他人身上学到的东西，可能他玩这个职业比较好，你玩这个职业比较好，然后我们可以互相学习，然后最后对你炉石这个就是对炉石游戏水平提高是很大的，我觉得。
There are a lot of players in China. They have the most players on their ladder than any other region. You think that gives you an edge having to compete against so many players in order to qualify for a championship?
当然有帮助。就我们打的比赛都是从很多人里面打出来的，要打的轮次可能会比其他国家的比赛要多。如果从那种比赛想要拿冠军，想要出现想要拿冠军的话，打的轮次会要多。我觉得对你的要求比较高，对运气的要求也比较高。
Yeah, really hard-working player. Gets in there, supports his team, works with the best.
Celestial. Where have I heard that name before?
Everywhere. They've had so many players doing so many things. They host their own tournaments occasionally. They're hosting their own league thing, I think, right now. Helping out, making community-run events.
I feel like something about this situation is reminding me of the name Celestial.
Tiddler Celestial.
Oh, yeah, right.
He was on the stage a while ago, 2014. He was
right.
Made it all the way to the finals.
Yeah, grand finalist.
Yeah.
So and then he began the Celestial.
Yeah, and they've done wonders, making it back almost every year, right?
Yeah.
There's at least someone from Celestial.
Yeah, it's a very large group of players that work together. Always happy to see. Tiddler's here
Oh, is he?
somewhere too. Yeah, I saw him the other day.
I'll have to say hi to him.
All right, rolling up with Control Warrior versus Yulsic's Druid. Not just any Control Warrior, as you can see from the hand. That is a copy of Yogg-Saron. This is very much on the control and kill everything that you play side of it. So much so that Breath has actually chosen to include a copy of King's Defender in the build as well.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of other players trying the Fool's Bane as tech against Shaman, but Breath takes it one step deeper and gets that King's Defender, so he can have the weapon out as early as possible. Just try and guarantee that he has Fiery War Axe every game. Chop down some aggro decks.
It's honestly not that bad. Just a 3-minute 3-2 weapon. I mean, how often do you play Fiery War Axe on 3 and do nothing else?
It's a tech choice a lot of people joke about and make memes about, where they're just like, yeah, Fiery War Axe was nerfed. We'd all just play King's Defender, and you know what? Sometimes 3 Fiery War Axes is just good.
I like Fiery War Axe. Solid card.
It's not a bad one, for sure. Would you play it at 3 mana?
Probably.
If it was your only choice, right?
Probably just wouldn't play Warrior as much.
That's probably true as well. Well, Yulsic's got a kind of a decision point here. He has the ability to nourish, or he has the ability to kind of fight back for the board, or even has the ability to kind of YOLO out the Ancient of War. Ancient of War this early oftentimes cannot be answered, and can get a lot of work done.
Yeah, my one concern is the armor total from Breath at the moment.
It's just
Shield block,
perfect
shield slam would just kill it.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, though. I mean, the problem is he doesn't have much more gas. And oftentimes with Druid, it's not necessarily about getting out threats. It's about being able to follow up the threat as well. So I actually like the Nourish here more, just to try to find a consistent couple of turns of pressure here.
Sure, yeah. Yulsic's Druid is designed to beat Warrior, and one of the ways it's designed to do well against Warrior is, of course, the Harrison Jones tech. Remove the weapons, namely Gore Howl, which can really be a thorn in Druid's side if it goes unanswered. But also, it just has extra threats in there, and that Ancient of War is one of those. It's got double Arcane Giant, Malagos, Ragnaros, Ancient of War that all must be killed, and that's 5 minions. And Warrior only has 4 single target removals, so it can get a bit awkward for Warrior to deal with all of these unless they have all of the answers, and sometimes when they have all of the answers, they still can't deal with it, but being able to use Sylvanas here as a pseudo answer is super key.
This is not a pseudo answer. This is very strong. I mean, this is going to force Yulsic to forego development in some fashion, or just go ahead and trade this up and really not think anything of it. And
he's got the Roots flip if he wants to go for it too.
Yeah, the Roots flip is always an interesting one to me, but I feel like this is going to accomplish the job better. His hand isn't really requiring him to pressure a lot right now, so if he uses the Ancient War just to kill 2 5-power minions, that's sort of its intent. So this is about the best he's going to get out of it, and this is where Breath has an opportunity to really put Yulsic to the test now. He's got to have stuff to follow this up, and considering that Yulsic used hero power last turn and that was it, I think Brett's got to feel good about his spot.
Yeah, Brett definitely seizes back all of the tempo, which in a lot of matchups is huge. Whoever has the tempo leads, the one getting through the chip damage and all this sort of stuff. But while Warrior has tempo, they can't really benefit from it. You saw Breath was really unable to, you know, snowball out minions because that's just not the style of what Control Warrior does. Its deck's not designed to be able to punish these situations. So I like Yulsic's play there, identifying that the tempo doesn't really matter. He can, you know, let this Ancient of War get removed, then answer the Sylvanas so it doesn't steal anything, and take a strict value line of play, and just afford to lose this tempo and stick to the game plan, having more threats than there are single target removal.
Right, but the Warrior buys his time. And time is the Warrior's advantage. They don't punish you with tempo. They punish you by not
They punish you
tempoing
with
them.
tanking up.
Yeah.
That's how they punish you. And they get inevitability.
The longer the game goes, generally, the more favored the Warrior player is. And so that's why I think Breath's got to be feeling good here. Just a strong delay. And further delay.
Things are going to start picking up pretty soon, though. The Yulsic's reaching the point where he can start cycling wild growths and get towards some bigger minions.
This is really interesting. You know, this is actually kind of a brilliant play from Breath right here, because if you look at his hand, he doesn't have a lot of very flexible options. He's just got one thing and then another big thing and then something that supplements it. So in this situation where he gets Grom developed, if Yulsic wants to pour damage into this, or any resources for that matter, Breath's just totally fine with that.
Yeah, the Yulsic's deck does not have Mulch, doesn't have Yogg, doesn't have any good single target removal answers, and Breath is setting up lethal, so this is really scary for Yulsic. He doesn't have great ways to answer this either, unless he wants to sink a ton into it. He might even have to, like, Malagos it?
I don't know. This is kind of scary. I mean, when Yulsic sees this, what is his read on the hand? Like, can you discern what this is even?
You gotta assume that there's some way that they can activate it, and you're afraid of that coming in for 10.
He's so afraid he's gaining 8.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable response to this. And now we're gonna see him, looks like, get out the Arcane Giant, just discounting it first by cycling the Wild Growth.
I mean, I very rarely have seen Grom played in this way.
It doesn't happen often, but it's one of the ways Warrior can actually utilize their tempo lead, and with Grom.
Yeah.
And Breath is utilizing it quite nicely. He can get through the 10 damage with the Grom now, but what does that accomplish for the future, as his deck really doesn't have any other damage left in it?
Well, I think the Grom is here to answer stuff, and so the Arcane Giant building tension against it, I think, is one of the perfect spots for Yulsic. If Breath chooses to start moving in on the damage side of things, Yulsic will have either answers or opportunities to counterattack. If Breath doesn't choose to kill the Arcane Giant's crashing in for 8.
Which is a lot of damage considering Yulsic sitting on Malagos, Roots, Moonfire.
Yulsic is about to get some very real information about what this turn exactly is. And when he sees this, I think it opens up a lot of what the hand for Breath is at the moment. Now, he takes 10 in order to get that information, but can he find a way to abuse that now?
He's very close to lethal, right? He's got 14 from the Roots, 6, 28 damage in the hand of Yulsic right now. Just 2 damage away from lethal on the current board state.
And if that's the case, that means if he Rustles control, he's probably in pretty good shape.
It's still so awkward. That Grom being at 8 health makes it survive against the Malagos Roots, so he needs to find some other way to develop the board. He could potentially go with Malagos Innervate Wrath to remove the Grom efficiently.
I think I'm okay with risking Malagos in this spot. You just saw an 8-7 Arcane Giant not get executed.
Yeah, I think it's very clear that there's no execute, no shield slam from the side of Breath, and Yulsic's going to agree with that analysis. Go in here on the Malagos, try and fight for board and stabilize a Malagos on.
Wow. This is a big turn.
Yep, taking out the Justicar, of course. And Brett's going to be forced in a situation where even if he draws single target removal, he's probably going to have to Yogg.
Yeah, this is not a good board state for him. And Ironforge Portal is not a help. Breath, you got to respect the Malagos here.
His Yogg's not even very charged up yet.
Oh, you're right. It's a bash, a slam. It's actually only a 2-spell Grom right now.
A 2-spell Yogg? Oh, man. Holy smokes. That's so low odds to clear. You can't play Yogg here.
That is incredibly low.
Yeah.
Like he's actually just played a bunch of minions.
Oh. He needs to stall for time then.
That's a tough order versus Malagos.
Well, I mean, he can take out the Giant, and you hope that there's not spells remaining. So you can start charging up your Yogg with, like, Revenge plus Bash, but there's no way you can justify pulling the trigger on a 2-spell Yogg here. But he can play 3 spells this turn, take out the 8/7, and then maybe Yogg will be cut out for it next turn when the Rag potentially comes down.
Does he have a way to chip through Malagos as well? Like, can he do that over time with the Fiery War Axe and Revenge that would put 6 damage on the Malagos?
Okay. That is an interesting point.
So if, like, yeah, if he like attacked Malagos with Fiery War Axe, then played Revenge, and then he could use Bash plus the Ravaging Ghoul Body to attack into the Arcane Giant, clear it off.
Yeah, he would only have 9 damage.
Wow, now that's aggressive.
He wants to get max value out of this Yogg, so he's leaving up the Arcane Giant, putting damage onto Yulsic's face.
That is gotta be scary if you're in Yulsic's position. He doesn't actually have the cards to punish this straight away. He's got 12 plus, he's at 19 in hand, or 19 total this turn, plus the hero power for 20. But Breath just attacked you for 3.
Yeah. And Yulsic develops the Azure Drake here. Didn't want to go with the Ragnaros plus Living Root's face for the 1 and 3 for lethal. He's just under the pressure of Breath. Feels he needs to do something defensive. The damage remaining from Breath's deck, he doesn't run a Gore Howl. Grom's already been expended. So the max damage from hand that Breath can do is 3 with an additional Bash. So
Baron Geddon for 2, so 5.
Baron Geddon for 2, so 5, yeah. Baron Geddon Bash plus the War Axe is the max damage.
So this spot, Yulsic clears. It's a 4-spell Yogg right now. Like, we're not close to the big times with it.
Yeah, 4 is not a lot. 4 is a big ask to try and remove a 4/9 Malagos, but that's the situation Breath is in now. It looks like he's going to have to do it. He knows there's been no spell previously from Yulsic, though, to go alongside this Malagos for, you know, the potential lethal. He could like do some sort of revenge play here with Geddon, maybe?
So now the attack on the Fiery War Axe will bring him to 13. So he's 1 outside of a big revenge.
Sure. He has to slam the Giant and then play Geddon.
That's what it's looking like. I mean, he would definitely need to draw something off the slam.
And then you're just at the mercy of Yulsic's top deck at that point.
And also at the mercy of Yogg's run afterwards.
Yeah, and then you still have to Yogg. Like, you're not out of the woods yet. You're just buying spells for Yogg. Is that risk worth extra spells for Yogg, or is it better just to Yogg?
It's a good question. Good Breath just making an error there. He attacked the Malagos, and now he's shaking his head.
The miscount.
Oh, no. And now he's Yogging. And this Yogg, the rope is burning.
Yeah,
so if any minions are summoned, there are no decisions left on that.
One more spell. Twisting Nether. That removes the spell power, but it's not enough.
Nope. It's way more than enough damage. Breath. Not quite the right calculations there at the end, I'm guessing. Yulsic going to walk away with game number 2, and you saw him kind of lean his head back like, oh. Yeah, wasn't sure about that one.
Yulsic needs to win against the Warrior. That's what his lineup is designed to counter. That's why his decks are a little bit heavier, you know, and he's got a lot of weapon removal spread across his kind of greedier, slower decks, and it's all just to try and punish that Warrior, so he really needed that win.
Yeah, Breath trying to escape with that Warrior build ASAP. Game number 3 coming up right after this.
Do you have practice partners?
I practice with some Hong Kong players. We form a Skype group and we practice a lot.
What sort of did you do to practice leading up to the World Championships?
We predicted there will be many weapon cards in the competition, so I prepared to bring some anti-weapon cards, for example, Harrison Jones, against those weapon cards.
Do you think that your life would change a lot if you won the World Championship?
If I win, I will be very famous, and esports in Hong Kong will be more well developed. there are very few tournaments in Hong Kong, no professional team, so I hope my experience can make Hearthstone more popular in Hong Kong.
World champion Yulsic.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Seems like there's always one thing in the way to the next step on becoming a world champion.
It's a long road to get there. It's definitely a journey, and these players have been put to the test.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a decider one right here. This is not a low stakes match by any stretch of the means. The winner's moving on, and the loser, their championship run comes to an end.
Yeah, it's like the finals of your freshman year for BlizzCon, basically.
It's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah,
I never really thought about it that way.
it's a tough exam.
Oh yeah. This is not an easy one. Small little questions asked every step of the way.
Not too much multiple choice. It's all open answer stuff, too. They always get you. Not too much multiple choice. It's all open answer stuff, too. They always get you.
Dog's like that kid in high school who just filled out the test with like random answers.
And sometimes gets it right. If you're trying to copy that guy's paper, you better watch out.
Yep.
Breath needed to do it last game.
Didn't quite get there.
That guy just didn't have the answers.
Yeah, Warrior versus Tempo Mage from Yulsic. And the Tempo Mage build, it does feature a few interesting choices. And the one that's mostly interesting to me is that Cold Sorcerer is cut from this build and Loot Hoarder is in its stead.
And that's namely for this matchup. Cold Sorcerer, the extra spell power for Arcane Blast, isn't that great against Warrior. They don't have too many minions that you can really get that effect off on that's super huge. Whereas the Loot Hoarder allows you to cycle into your late game combos, which is the Emperor Thorsan plus Archmage Antonidas. Generate infinite fireballs scenario, which, you know, infinite fireballs are pretty good.
Yes, that doesn't really take that many to kill Warrior, but it usually takes that -3 or 4.
Sure.
So being able to find a big Emperor turn and then couple all of that action to make it happen is really important. And the second thing that's also important to note here is that Barnes is in the build as well. So Cult Sorcerer operating a little bit weaker off of Barnes, where Loot Hoarder is operating much better. And honestly, the build kind of comes together when you really take that into consideration, because it gives him so many different pulls from the deck that are super beneficial.
Really aggressive here by Yulsic, just freezing Breath's face so he can't utilize the War Axe to remove the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Do you have the artifact?
Getting in a lot of damage
What do you think
very
of that?
quickly. I like it. I think it's fine. He's not doing anything else with his hand. The only downside to the play really is you're missing a ping, but other than that, you're developing an extra 3 damage with the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Breath still wants to hit the Sorcerer's Apprentice with his weapon, and that's another 3 damage there, so that's a 9 damage Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Or a 6 damage Frostbolt.
Yeah, there's a 12 damage in total between the Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Frostbolt, which is, that's a lot of damage.
It is. It's like +3 spell power almost.
Yeah, and
See, everyone always Frostbolts when they can see the spell power there immediately.
this is the
It's the hidden
concealed spell power, yeah.
It's ninja spell power.
Ninja spell power. Is that the next expansion?
I hope so. I kind of want pirate spell power too. Just everything deals more damage. No matter what the source, your opponent's or yours.
Out on me.
Just
Seems very pirate to me.
okay.
So setting up for this Elise to die on the trade side of things, and then pushing damage, this is a really smart setup from Yulsic here.
Yeah, and also pinging the Elise plays around Revenge, which is very important at this point. Revenge would just sweep up Yulsic's board with 1 card, so I really like being tentative about it. Now at least your opponent has to take 2 damage before they can Revenge off your board.
Not the most difficult to do, but the Elise is gone when that happens. Proactive at that. So up to 16 for Breath, who will be trading off the Loot Hoarder.
Warrior's really tough to kill. They really just don't die, but good for Yulsic. This Tempo Mage deck just never runs out of steam. With those Loot Hoarders in there, he's got an Acolyte of Pain in there, 2 Arcane Intellect. Just has so much fuel just to continue drawing. And there's more draw there. Blood Mage Thalnos also, even more draw. He's just constantly drawing fireballs and creating fireballs. It's just a lot of fire in this mage deck.
There's a lot of armor in the Warrior deck as well.
Yeah, no kidding.
But Yulsic, I think he's ready to giddy up. This is a pretty good hand.
I like Breath, you know, analyzing the situation here, realizing a lot of burn has already been used.
I mean, he could set him to 1.
Yeah, but Breath knows he's not going to die here with this commitment of the Justicar, or at least that's what he thinks. And he is on the money. He is not going to die, but he's very close. And now he can utilize this hero power, utilize this tank up, start gaining more armor, and he can weave in these shield blocks now that he has more mana to do so. So maximum armor efficiency from Breath.
He's got his work cut out for him, though. This is still a long way to go.
Does he feel safe enough where he can just tank up plus maybe the Ironforge portal, going up to 9 at this turn? Because you do want to get a minion developed so you can kind of fight back for the board as the Justicar is sort of just trading off. Doesn't feel quite that safe. Wants to gain an additional point of armor here and also remove the Thalnos, I'm guessing.
I think the site's going to save for the execute.
Okay, sure, they do go well together, and he has no other execute activator.
I can't really argue against the shield block here, because I think if he draws Shield Slam in that position, he's actually starting a clock on Yulsic at that point.
Okay.
And so eventually Yulsic has to respect the 6-3 when that happens. And so that could potentially buy him that little bit of extra damage he needs to really secure himself in the game, because Yulsic obviously took about the most aggressive line that he possibly could last turn.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also think it's supplemented by the fact that Fireball just kills him if he only gains up to 9 life that turn, because of the spell power and the Thalnos and everything.
That is the actual Blood Mage at this point.
Oh, yeah.
It's not very often you see this happen.
The Blood Mage twins, both golden.
This is not a good spot for Breath, I don't think. I mean, he's got tools to kind of fend this off, but you know, it's the caster vision. There's 2 extra cards and Antonidas waiting in Yulsic's hand right now.
Yeah, the fireballs don't stop. Like, Yulsic's drawn a lot of fireballs this game, but he's running the maximum amount of fireballs you can possibly run with torches, fireballs, and Archmage Antonidas, so they just keep coming.
Ooh.
I agree with his sequencing.
I do too.
Even though he got punished for it. And the reason being is because the advantage of getting one of the Inspire minions off of this that is powerful and helps you gets outweighed by the fact that one of the 4-cost minions would actually deal 4 damage to you, basically setting yourself up into a position where Yulsic would kill you. So, although he's a bit punished by it, I do think that that is the correct sequencing for the situation, just because the punish is so much worse if it goes the other way with it.
Yep, like the attacks from Yulsic first, he only had 12 damage available that turn, 13 I think with the hero power, and all he's looking to do is get to a big Archmage Antonidas turn. And so now he's guaranteed himself 2 extra fireballs this way, and he's got an Emperor on board.
Yeah.
And this doesn't necessarily mean he has to use the Archmage here. He could just wait a little bit.
Yeah, find more cheap spells to go with it. He's got plenty in the deck. Arcane Blasts, and other Mirror Images, Arcane Missiles.
King's Defender, he's got to take 5. I don't know about that. I think I would have loved to see an execute right there.
Yeah, what is he saving the second execute for?
And Arcane Blast, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He can not quite use the entire hand, but he could get 3 fireballs and deal 6 damage here at least.
I like it. That's a lot of damage.
It's a lot of damage.
He's dealing 6 and generating 18. Of course, it's not strictly 18, just because these fireballs do cost 4 apiece, which means he can only use 2 a turn, and then it gets offsetted by Breath's armor gain of 4. So it's more like 8 damage, but it's still a lot of damage.
And there's actually not a way to directly reach Archmage Antonidas for Breath right now. So if he wanted to kill it, it's either shield block and do damage,
or Brawl 50-50.
Or Brawl 50-50. That is it.
Or Yogg-Saron.
Well, he could Yogg-Saron, but we're looking at Bash, Shield Block, Portal, and Slam.
Sure, yeah. The outs are just much superior this way. He doesn't
Brawl
need
it
to go all
is.
in.
And that little old mirror image.
Yulsic is even able to kill one of them to try and play around this Brawl out, so a little unfortunate for him there.
17 takes him to 5, and then he would go up to 9. So if you play the Flame Marker alongside of it, It's Flamewaker double Fireball. Instead, he drops to...
That's a lot of damage. That's 16 right there, right?
So he drops to 1 again, and then the Fireball in the backswing with Tank Up will kill him. So this is up to Breath to draw some way to extend the armor, to kill the Flamewaker, or to heal himself.
He needs Ironforge Portal number 2.
So
it's Yogg time.
Yep, it's Yogg time then. He knows the Fireball's in hand. This is the only out. This is a 5-spell Yogg.
And it's a 2-spell Yogg.
Now it's a 2-spell Yogg. That's going to do it. Yulsic taking a 2-1 lead, continuing to punish the Warrior build.
Yeah, that mage deck, so strong against Warrior. Very well teched to be able to get the job done. I really like cutting the Cult Sorcerers and including Loot Hoarders because that's a tech that really punishes Warrior but doesn't actually hurt you that much in a lot of the other matchups. And I think it's a really well-designed build for what he's trying to accomplish.
I personally love the Loot Hoarders right now. I think it not only is it strong versus Warrior, but it's really strong versus Hunter.
And Shaman,
well. And
just
Shaman.
to be able to dig for that burn.
Yeah, things to think about. Game number 4 is coming up right after this.
The Hearthstone World Championship.
How did you start to realize that you wanted to play competitively? What made you want to start competing in tournaments?
中国的黄金赛嘛，是在中国各个城市，能去到一个新的城市可以去玩，然后又可以去打比赛。我比较享受这种比赛的状态，然后，所以我去年去打了几站黄金赛，然后而且成绩都还不错吧。 因为都能进到4强决赛，然后我就觉得可以把炉石当做一个职业来打。我喜欢玩这个游戏，而且我也比较享受炉石比赛给我带来的快乐。
Walk me through a little bit of your experience playing in Gold Series and qualifying for the World Championship.
因为我在那个春季赛的时候，其实我每一场比赛都是从落后开始打的，然后。 而且每一轮我都觉得自己就到这里为止了，然后最后能赢吧，我觉得我很意外，然后也很兴奋。
How do you think your life will change if you win the World Championship?
我大概会花一段时间在世界旅游吧，我觉得。
It's a good idea. Good idea.
Hearthstone was able to be a catalyst to traveling the world and taking time off. Man, that's sweet. Wants to travel the world, but it's got to get through Yulsic first.
Sure, yeah, and Yulsic's not making it easy. Yulsic's already up 3-1 in the series, but now is where it gets a little bit tricky for Yulsic to navigate. He has Warlock and Shaman remaining, both of which are quite well targeted by Breath's lineup.
Yeah, the Shaman build does feature a Harrison Jones as well as a Barnes and a Ragnaros and 2 Mana-type totems, 1 less Lightning Storm, but this Warrior build and the Freeze Mage build are serious. Freeze Mage, one of the best tools, I think, for tackling mid-range Shaman.
Most definitely. The only way mid-range Shaman is usually able to scrape a win is when they can, you know, rush out a Ragnaros on curve. Then they can kind of get the job done sometimes. But even then, Freeze Mage typically has a pretty big edge. Breath, though, kind of wincing at his hand here. Not a lot of early game draw, a lot of late game cards here.
Yep, and it's the blistering start from Yulsic with Totem Golem.
Acolyte of Pain, you know, a reasonable pickup, but just going to cycle it immediately, try and look for things to do on the following turns. He's got a lot of freezes, so he has a lot of stall with that. He's going to have the ability to use, you know, both Blizzards will gain him a turn, a Frost Nova will gain him a turn, and oftentimes after Blizzard's Flame Strike will also gain you an additional turn. So he has all of the time in the world, and if he's able to just assemble some Burn and Alexstrasza, he may not even need card draw this game.
And that healing totem was just devastating to Breath right there. That Forgotten Torch would have answered the totem golem perfectly and allowed him to roll into card draw turns. Instead, he's having to sacrifice more Acolytes of Pain in order to try to extend the game as far as possible.
Yeah, and honestly, from Yulsic's side, I like kind of ignoring this Acolyte of Pain. Maybe just dropping this thing from below and punching him in the face. He wants to deny the draw, though, which I can also get behind. You know, I'm just more of an aggressive player.
Yeah, I am a little bit curious about that. I think I would tend to deny the draw, and Breath's going to go ahead and Polymorph here. Now, that Polymorph is more intended to be a card that will target Ragnaros. As you said, that's an enormous threat to Freeze Mage. It's why that card was there. I mean, we're going back to 2014 Hearthstone where Reels teched it in to deal with Ragnaros.
And we see Yulsic here, you know, he smells weakness. He's out for blood. And after seeing that polymorph kind of get exhausted on not the intended minion, he realizes that Breath must have a weak hand. Let's see if we can't punish that with Thunderbluff Valiant. But, you know, Brett's freezes are finally live now. He can Frost Nova this turn, Blizzard the turn after, Flame Strike the turn after. So he can just lock down this board for the next 4 turns going. And
yeah, this is an 11-point board with a single hero power.
yeah, you can't let this.
Is Frost Nova going to heal for more than 11 this game? I think not. So it'll be Frost Nova into Loot Hoarder to try to continue to extend the draws. And like you said, with as strong as his hand is, he's actually got a lot of time, but Yulsic finds Ragnaros. If you look at that last turn, Breath would be at 21. He would have frozen the thing from below. He'd still have the polymorph in hand. Could he have just taken that damage and been fine?
That is interesting.
Because now this Ragnaros, this is likely, I think, to be the next big roadblock in the way.
The awkward thing, too, when you think about that line of play and you're saying save the polymorph for the Ragnaros, then in that instance, what are you doing while polymorphing the Ragnaros? Because you also need to be freezing the board, too, at the same time. And unless there just happens to be no board. I guess the board gets cleaned up by the Flame Strike, actually. Yeah. Might have been a little overextension of Breath's resources, overreacting to the thing from below.
There is a lot at stake.
Second Thunderbluff.
I really like the development of the second Thunderbluff Valiant here by Yulsic, as it does allow him to play against the Flame Strike. It denies Flame Strike from being a total board freeze. He's still able to get through 3 damage.
Yep, and Breath, with that Alexstrasza draw, that is a key one.
Oh yeah, he's in a much better position than he was before. You know, he's sitting on 6 damage, but that could very easily change. As soon as he's able to, you know, find a Frostbolt, he's pretty much in business.
I mean, I'm looking at second Blizzard here.
Just to try and set up for the Flame Strike board clear?
Well, I'm curious if you can ever Ice Lance the Thunderbluff Valiant.
See, the awkward part is if you go for the second Blizzard, you are kind of committing to having to Flame Strike next turn, and it is going into your opponent's turn 8.
Ah, this is interesting. So you Forgotten Torch in order to
add the Fireball to your deck. He draws afterwards because he's prioritizing getting
looking for the damage because he drew Alexstrasza.
Yep.
This is a really keen play from Breath. The fact that he's got enough time with this hand to make it through a couple of turns and just tank some damage here means that he can take the aggressive line, and that's where the Ragnaros throws a wrench in the plans.
That whole game plan gets shifted as he starts realizing Blizzard's no longer going to be enough of a board stall to get the job done. So, setting up to remove the Ragnaros with the Flame Strike. 9 damage in hand after the Alex, but it still needs to buy more time.
And he sets Ragnaros down to 2 health, but that's 8 more crashing in. Breath is going to fall to 7 here.
Yulsic.
And Yulsic's already got Lightning Bolt and Spell Power in hand, so if he picks up a Lightning Bolt or he picks up a Spirit Claws, that is a lethal threat.
And he's just holding back development, knows the Flame Strike is very likely to come out from Breath's side.
I hope you like my invention.
Easy Flame Strike.
Spirit Claws would be lethal here, or second Lightning Bolt.
Yep. Not Thing from below.
No.
So
I would have liked to see actually Yulsic just cycle the Mana Tide. Even though he knows Flame Strike's coming, he has the opportunity for lethal. Still opportunity for lethal off the Maelstrom portal. Could hit Stone Tusk Boar. A little over 3% for lethal here. Gonna take
the
it.
Flame Tongue Totem. Nice.
Yep.
I think it's much stronger than rolling a totem right now.
I agree.
At the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now he's cycling the Mana Tide. So curious if he ends up in a similar situation here, if the extra turn for Breath really makes that big of a difference. This is interesting.
Breath still needs to get the Ice Block up with both Blizzards used, the Flame Strike used. It's very difficult for him to get the Ice Block up in this situation. He now has the damage for after Alexstrasza, but doesn't have the time to utilize the Alexstrasza.
No freeze left.
Yeah, just the 1 Frost Nova remaining in the deck.
I mean, can he go like Ice Block, Ice Barrier?
What to do?
You can, and then
buy you enough time. Like maybe you
got to play. How much damage can you afford to play around? You should try and play around, you know, at least a Lightning Bolt, which is
Flame
4.
Tongue. I think Flame Tongue is the one you have to
Okay.
has to be on your mind here.
All right, so you got to try. If he's trying to play around 4 damage, and there's 10 on the board right now, and he goes up to 15 with Barrier, then in his mind, Barrier is just enough. If he wants to try and play around 8 damage, though, he's got to launch one of these burn spells and not have lethal set up in the 2-turn sequence here, and he relies on top decking another burn.
Looks like it's what he's going to do, too. And I think here it'd be, honestly, it's slightly better to take out the Azure Drake just for consideration of Spirit Claws.
Yeah, I agree. And he agrees as well. He takes it out and playing extra cautious. He knows Yulsic's seen a lot of his deck and has a lot of chances to have found that damage. Yulsic needs to try and assemble 15 damage here. And the totem roll can do it. 25%.
Not quite this time.
So now we look at, is there any possibilities for Maelstrom Portal? He can get South Sea Deckhand. So that is 10, 11. Yeah, South Sea Deckhand and Stone Tusk 4 are both lethal. So Maelstrom Portal is a little over 6% chance for lethal this turn, or popping the ice block.
Well, he can pop the ice block this turn, can't he? He's got 7 from Thing from Below, then... no,
he's 1 off.
1 off, yeah.
So he's got
wow.
2 charged minions off the Maelstrom Portal that can get the job done.
Yeah, but I like going with the Maelstrom here.
Yeah, I think you launch the Maelstrom every time. It's not going to do anything later on in the game. Might as well try and pop the block with it, but Yulsic disagrees.
He's perhaps not considering that.
Yeah, it's an easy thing to overlook, the Maelstrom Portal.
That's actually just, that's almost close to game now. I mean, Breath needs just a couple points of damage to end this.
He's only has 12 now. He's looking at...
he's got 1 Fireball left in the build.
An Ice Lance.
He's got an Ice Lance left. He's got
another
Frostbolt left.
That would do it.
He has...
Yeah, Thalnos would do it, right? Thalnos is 3 damage.
Thalnos would be 3 damage as well, so Thalnos would work.
He's got 4 outs.
Trying to think if there's anything else.
And Yulsic's kind of just at the mercy of it. He's basically just got to, you know, pop Breath at 1 and get rid of this Alexstrasza. So hex the Alexstrasza, trade into it, send 3 damage face, and then finish the pop with the 7 damage Thing from Below.
There are 11 cards left in Breath's deck as well, so 4 of those cards instantly win him the game.
Yep.
He has multiple of them that can draw, but if he has to draw, he's likely to need another Ice Block.
Well, Ice Block also kind of wins it.
It extends for another turn.
It
resets to the exact same situation, except it would then be 4 out of 10 cards.
Yeah. So under 50% chance for Breath to be able to win this game in the current situation. So Yulsic still favored to win from this position.
And Doomsayer's not it.
Doomsayer's not it. Breath is going to go down 1-3, losing a heavily favored matchup, allowing Yulsic to escape with the Shaman that he's trying to target. And it all comes down to that early game draw. You know, Brett's hand was just awkward in the beginning, and Yulsic was able to get his tech Ragnaros down right on 8 and paid him dividends.
The turn for me to really look at is the Fireball into Thing from Below.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the Polymorph into Thing
Oh,
from Below.
yeah, true.
If he was able to Poly Rag,
it would have been so much easier to answer Rag. He would have been able to hold the Ice Lance. That Ice Lance would have been the damage at the end there.
The damage push would have changed the outcomes as well, though. So we have a completely different game just because of that turn. So
that was a tough one for both sides.
Definitely is. Game, we'll have to see if he can bounce back. He's now down. Yulsic's on match point. We'll be right back.
How important is winning BlizzCon to you?
Winning BlizzCon can give me confidence in playing Hearthstone, and it proves that Hong Kong player is good.
What made you specifically want to try and qualify for BlizzCon?
Last year, I watched BlizzCon. I found no player representing Hong Kong, so I decided to play hard and represent Hong Kong in BlizzCon.
You hope and you want the Hearthstone scene to get better in Hong Kong if you win, but how would that happen?
If I win BlizzCon, then the media will have interview with me, and Hearthstone and me will be famous in Hong Kong. Then I think many teenagers may try this game, and Hearthstone can be promoted.
One game away from extending the dream for Yulsic.
Yeah, he's played well, fought really hard, able to navigate some tough matchups, and he's just so close.
3 games away for Breath to keep his hopes alive. Look at the difference.
Yeah, a little bit stressed. He's got one good thing going for him, and it is that Yulsic happens to have the Zoo Warlock that his lineup kind of preys on. You can see, you know, Freeze Mage traditionally always been great against Zoo. You got the Face Hunter with the 2 explosives to unleash is very great against the Zoo deck, and then you have this Warrior deck that, you know, the most important thing against Zoo is drawing Fiery War Axe, right? Well, he's got a King's Defender as well, so he's got even more likelihood to draw Fiery War Axe. So although he's down, he's not down and out. He still has some chances.
Yeah, when you're behind, the thing to take solace in is that you have 3 good chances. Now you have to succeed all 3.
Yeah, it's still
They're
rough.
not so you have 1 long shot in the grand scheme of things, rather than 3 long shots. He's going to start with Freeze Mage 2. He wants wins on the board. He wants to try to turn the momentum. Freeze Mage beating Zoo is it's almost a demoralizing state when you're the Zoo player. And I think he's hoping that he could plant that in Yulsic's mind, like, hey, I'm going to turn this series around.
That is true. It always feels terrible. You feel like there's nothing that you can do to win. Sometimes if you have the teched-in Crazed Alchemist, you can get some tempo swings on Doomsayer, but Breath just confidently throwing out the Doomsayer because he knows the deck list. Yulsic does not have any Crazed Alchemist in it. Instead, he has teched in the Acidic Swamp Ooze to try and give himself an edge against the Control Warrior.
And that tempo is super important when it comes to this matchup, because developing Acolyte of Pain into an empty board state means that your opponent has to develop differently.
Yulsic does have some interesting opportunities here where he can look to try and high roll, which is kind of what you have to do in bad matchups. You have to discard the right card even when it's unlikely, just to try and string things along. So it'll be interesting to see how this hand breaks down and what risks Yulsic is willing to take to make that happen.
Put this apple on your head.
And here comes one of them, that Soulfire.
Yep, I think the Soulfire, honestly, is just a strong call here, kind of regardless of the situation. Denying the draw, I think, is super important here, and Knife Juggler is going to be one of his highest damage output minions.
Yeah, for sure. And he's looking to coin Doomguard next turn, I think.
You like my invention?
Just start getting them.
Curious to see where this goes exactly.
I want to see coin Doomguard. I think it's time to just turn on the Jets.
Just put him on the clock.
Yulsic going to be a little bit more passive. Look to try and build a board first and maybe guarantee that the Silverware Golem gets discarded.
He also gets to pick up Malkazar's Imp this way.
Yeah, very rewarded for this line of play. Getting that Malkazar's Imp is huge. And,
I mean, now I'm looking at it, and I kind of like the Malkazar's Imp and the Librarian.
oh yeah, for sure. Discard the Silverware Golem, get a free 3/3, cycle a card. Looks like it all lines up, but going to be a little bit more patient. Try and get the Malkazar's Imp out this turn and be able to combo it with the Doomguard and just cycle the coin instead of utilizing the coin. So turning the coin into a card rather than turning it into 1 mana, which is a pretty high value play looking forward. This may allow him to have less taps in the future, which will make him able to keep a higher life total throughout the game.
And that's important in this matchup. Oftentimes, versus the aggressive builds, Freeze Mage can struggle because it needs to land an Alexstrasza. Against Warlock, they put themselves at risk sometimes. And so limiting the amount of times that you have to life tap, I think, is really important for Yulsic here.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting kind of overall game plan to the matchup, and well, I'm curious to see how it'll work out for him. But this has to be Doomguard, yeah.
Yeah, there's 50% chance to get the Silverware Golem alongside of this as well. He does, and that's going to be 2 extra card draws as well, and an opportunity to even further maximize that. Dark Peddler is such a valuable resource that I don't see him coining the Soulfire this turn.
Yeah, no way. He's still looking to try and discard this coin. I guarantee you, he's trying to discard the coin. He doesn't want to be tapping. He just wants to get rid of this coin. And he's very hesitant on how he wants to take these trades here. Getting the Malkazar's Imp down to 1 health is a bit awkward as it plays into Blizzard a little bit, and also just the ping hero power from Breath.
Yeah, that's going to prompt the Polymorph. And Breath, he's got some decent tools, but he needs card draw, and he needs it now.
And AoE, he's only got the 1 Frost Nova, and like 2 Ice Lances is not where you want to be at in this matchup. They just don't accomplish enough until the very end of the game.
And consistently, Yulsic is making it a point to not life tap and instead just fully develop.
Yeah, and that's really going to punish Yulsic's hand because, I mean, Breath's hand, because Breath has all of the burst damage, and, well,
He's
starting the semblance of the burst damage, and
he's down to Doomsayer too, so the Frost Nova buys him life here, but it doesn't set up a big turn for him. It just simply buys him time.
yeah, and what is the time really going to accomplish? He needs to chain freezes, get flame strikes, or draw a lot of burn just because Yulsic's not tapping.
2 Blizzards, a Flame Strike. Right now, that's about it. Doomsayer would help, but not if he Frost Novas first.
I think you still have to just Frost Nova this board. So much pressure.
So this prevents 12 damage to the Frost Nova,
Yeah.
plus the extra 1 that would happen from the Councilman. So
Actually-
up to 13 damage.
You could maybe wait a turn, Ice Lance the Councilman, and then try and Frost Nova a little bit bigger of a board.
I'm
Because
looking at Ice Barrier myself.
Yeah, Ice Barrier this turn, and like Ice Lance the Councilman, and just try and maximize the amount of turns before you have to utilize that freeze.
I don't know if I like the Ice Lance on the Councilman here, because if he uses the Ice Lance, it's cutting into his damage. Now, if he couples the Ice Lance with a Frost Nova, I think that makes more sense.
Okay, just to kill off the Councilman, because that's what's kind of making you have to freeze every turn.
And so this way, he's actually representing Flame Strike
Sure.
or Blizzard.
And then maybe Yulsic doesn't extend as much, and then he can buy another turn that way.
That's a really... I mean, that play is, from Yulsic's perspective, looks exactly like that.
Yeah.
So are you willing to extend into the board here?
Do
And
you
does
want-
he need to life tap?
If there's a Flame Strike, you have to life tap, right? Because then you need to refill the board. So Breath is kind of making Yulsic have to life tap.
This is
with
a
this
strong
play.
bluff, honestly.
And then if Yulsic has to life tap, that plays into Breath's hand of all the damage.
I think given Breath's
Kinda like
exact
it.
hand, he has stronger plays than what he just did. But in order to try to manipulate what Yulsic did, this is stronger.
Yeah.
And he's getting a Soulfire onto his Blood Mage.
Yeah, Yulsic's afraid of the Flame Strike with the spell power. Oh, that's the damage.
That's a really big deal.
Yeah, getting those taps is amazing. Making Yulsic think that he has to tap to be able to reload after a Flame Strike that's not even there, so that he plays into the burn damage from Breath.
Whoa. Well, now this is kind of interesting. So he chooses to Frostbolt the Councilman, and I think it's largely because he picked up the Blizzard here. But that was a lot of damage from hand he just gave up for a bit.
He just chucked
That was
out.
11 damage. He has to find that's his second Frostbolt, actually.
Well, he has to do something to continue signaling the Flame Strike if he wants Yulsic to continue tapping.
I wonder.
Is Yulsic going to tap with the Doomguard in hand, though?
I don't think so. I don't think he can afford to tap anymore,
Yeah, I think he has to stop tapping altogether.
especially with the Doomguard in hand. I mean, his turn right now is Councilman Doomguard when he gets that opportunity. He's actually going to life tap now. I don't know about this, Firebat.
He did just see a Frostbolt, though. That does limit the potential damage from Breath's side. Breath really needs the second Frostbolt.
What is
to
he
make
looking
anything
for,
happen.
That's my question.
2 Blizzards is really going to slow down this board state.
That does leave a 1-1 behind. Don't think there's much way for him to get punished off this. There are no power overwhelmings in the build, but there is Abusive Sergeant. So the maximum amount of burst that Yulsic could do from this point would be 2 Abusive Sergeants, a Direwolf Alpha, and a Doomguard.
And he's tapping, digging in his deck, trying to find, I guess, that additional burst damage. And it's just not there.
Which actually, 2 Abusive Sergeants, Direwolf Alpha, and Doomguard would have won the game. So I'm curious if Breath counted that.
He needed to Blizzard anyway. He needed to get the board frozen. He didn't really have a choice.
Yeah,
in
my
the
question
matter.
is, did he need a Novice? Could have pinged Blizzard.
Oh, could have pinged in Blizzard, yeah. Try and play around it. Take the game a little bit more slow, a little less risky. Yeah, I could see that line as well.
My shield for Argon.
Now at this point, I think the Ice Lances pretty much are removable. So Blizzard Ice Lance will clean up this board.
He's going to take the trade there on the 1-1 just to try and protect his Councilman a little bit better from the
6,
potential
7, 8,
Flame
9, 10,
Strike.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 damage available for Breath right now. It takes multiple turns to unlock that, but the rest of the build, so now there's one more Fireball left he can draw. If he uses Forgotten Torch,
Well, he has a lot of pings, right? This way. How much damage do you say he has? 16 damage, and then he has 3 pings, right? He pings this turn, then he can Ice Block ping next turn, And as long as he's unloading some of the damage within it.
So now that damage is reduced by 4. So this will require him to draw a Roaring Torch or another Fireball. But there is a lot of time here.
Yeah. Actually, Breath did have a guaranteed lethal, right? He pings face that turn, double Ice Lance face. Next turn he could Ice Block, Forgotten Torch, ping face, into Fireball, Forgotten Torch, ping face again.
Oh, you're right. Wow.
This gives Yulsic an opportunity to kind of punish him a little bit, but it's going to be tough still. Like, the Freeze Mage is in such a commanding position at the moment.
Well,
no need to tap here, I don't think.
oh, absolutely not. This would be a disaster. Like, you are representing lethal on board. There are no cards you can draw right now that would increase your clock.
But could be afraid of spot removal removing your board. You did see an Ice Lance get used. How much damage has been exhausted from Breath's deck?
2 Frost Bolts.
2 Frost Bolts.
And now 1 Ice Lance. And that's it, I believe. He polyed the first Doom Guard.
He polyed the first Doom Guard, so there's still 2 Fireballs available then. It is a risky life tap there, but knowing that the Ice Lance combo is removed, he's not too afraid of that much burst damage coming out, I guess.
Breath's got to find the right line this turn, and it is looking difficult. Board control is no longer an option for him. He has to maximize the damage. Him missing that double Ice Lance Ice Block turn by weaving in 3 consecutive hero powers may cost him this game.
Yeah. Those are some tricky 3-turn lethals, but that's what Freeze Mage is all about. Yeah, there's still, how much damage does he have? He has 12. Ice Lance being stranded is so brutal. Having both of those Frostbolts used is really coming in huge. He needs to try and find one of the other Fireballs. So it might be, you know, double Forgotten Torch to the face and just Ice Block this turn. And then you have added 2 more Fireballs to your deck, so you have 3 potential Fireballs that you could draw, all of which would be giving you lethal.
Another Ice Block that you could draw.
Yeah.
Frost Nova would be good enough.
So is adding 2 more Fireballs to your deck better, or is it actually better to deploy the Acolyte to get the extra draw? I think the Acolyte, right? Yeah, because then you have not only the Fireballs, but also the Ice Block that could really help out, and also extra freezes.
Yulsic is... There are really no options left for Yulsic. It is pop the Ice Block, deny as many draws as you can from Acolyte, and hope for the best.
And do not tap. So, yeah, both the Dire Doggies to the face, and then the Golem to the face, popping at 1, and then trade in the Doom Guard, or, you know, any order that as long as you pop them at 1, and
deny the draws.
Deny the draws.
It's the most he can do.
And it's just a waiting game, just hoping the Freeze Mage doesn't get it.
Love anticipation.
I don't like it. I hate that scenario, being stuck in that spot.
Game Strike gets drawn.
A little late.
Well, that could buy him some time, though.
It could. There's no Doom Guards remaining. This is the second Doom Guard.
There's no Soulfires remaining either. There's
one Knife Juggler.
There is 1 Knife Juggler.
1 Knife Juggler.
But he's expending the Abusive Sergeant.
Oof. I don't like that.
And Alexstrasza gets drawn.
You can clear board, then Alexstrasza, heal yourself back up.
Breath might have fully recovered this. This is going to come down to Yulsic needing to draw Knife Juggler, then draw a minion, and get the juggle. Which obviously he gets the juggle. There's no presence on board for Breath right now. That is the only out. If Breath chooses to Alexstrasza himself and Ice Lance the Doom Guard, he's now representing his own lethal.
And there's only 9 damage on the side from Yulsic. Is there any combination of cards that's going to give him the damage? Both Soulfires, both Doom Guards are gone. This is just a checkmate, isn't it?
It's another Abusive Sergeant and another Defender of Argus are the only extra damage.
Is there a Peddler remaining?
I don't recall if he's played 2 Peddlers or not. I know at least 1 Peddler's been played. I don't know if a second one has.
Yeah, I think this is checkmate. Aside from maybe Knife Juggler, Peddler into Soulfire, and winning the 50-50 on the Knife Juggler.
Here just kills the Alexstrasza. So that's my one concern.
Oh, okay, that is a big concern. But then you follow up with Flame Strike. So you're forced to follow up with the other play anyway, but you get an additional draw to try and find the lethal.
Yeah, the difference is with this way is he gets to attack the presence from Yulsic afterwards, and he sacrifices a couple points of life. The other way, he attacked the presence immediately, got a couple extra points of life. So in the long term, attacking the board presence immediately gave him a better situation because he's taking more of Yulsic's cards away from him. And as long as he continues to extend, that's the better situation for Breath right now.
Thinking the Doomguard sets up the Flame Strike just in case. Any burn top deck would be lethal.
And Yulsic cannot life tap right now. He will die to burn spells if he does that. So he's got to hope there's no Flame Strike. Breath has it and is going to be able to get out of this situation. And just a Fireball top deck. We're going to game number 6. Breath pulls back from a really tough position. There are some tricky spots in that game, Firebat.
Yeah, that double Ice Lance opening is always just the cards you never want to see in your Freeze Mage opening, and Breath narrowly navigates that, able to find a way to get through that very clunky Freeze Mage draw. So good on him to be able to get the job done.
Yeah, some different roads he could have taken, but hey, the win is the win, and that's all he cares about right now. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, especially on this stage, under that pressure, he needs to win, otherwise he's eliminated. It's so scary.
It's tough to keep your wits about you when that's the situation you're in. I mean, that is something else. $250,000 potentially on the line in that single game. Game number 6 coming up right after this.
The Hearthstone World Championship is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
As we hold our breath in anticipation of game number 6, Breath needs 2 more to make this comeback happen. He was down 3 games to 1, but part of the strength of his lineup is how it functions versus Zoo.
Yeah, and he's been demonstrating that, able to pick up a win against the Zoo Warlock, and now he's got the Face Hunter and the Yogg Warrior remaining to try and prey on that Zoo Warlock.
And I think they both do a pretty fantastic job of that.
So shall be mine.
We're going to lead with the Warrior build, so Brath says, let's take another long one here. And honestly, I think that's good for him, because if Breath can maintain his focus, he's going to have to no matter what. For Yulsic, as soon as he wins a game, it's over with. Make him play the most possible.
Get it out! Get it out!
And able to pick up the Fiery War Axe, one of the most important cards in the matchup. You know, it's very likely that Breath is able to do so because he's basically running 3 with the King's Defender that he has teched into his deck list. So he's going to make short work of this Knife Juggler, able to chop it down.
Yeah, meanwhile, for Yulsic, the assault begins. This is always the first roadblock, though, is the Fiery War Axe. Let's kill a lot of minions. I wish there was like a counter on my Fiery War Axe that could tell me how many times it's killed a minion.
How many kills it has.
That'd be cool.
That'd be kind of cool. Gets experience over time, and then that's how you earn Golden Fiery War Axe. You gotta get 500 kills with it.
I wonder.
You'd get Golden Fiery War Axe a lot sooner than you'd get Golden Warrior, that's for sure.
That is true. It would need to be much higher than 500. Yulsic going with the tap here, doesn't want to extend the second Knife Juggler out there just to get chopped down like the first one. Being a little bit patient, wants to bait the Fiery War Axe charge out on a weaker minion such as this Malcazar's in.
I kind of like this too, because when you see Fiery War Axe from Breath, you know that the game's probably just going to go longer as a result. That's one of Warrior's major tools at the start of the game to fend off pressure. And so because of that, he's going to need more card economy to get the job done, and powering out a Knife Juggler and a Malcazar's Imp doesn't really force that much more damage. Now he gets to couple it with a Flame Imp and a Void Walker. He just saw a Bash from Breath.
Yeah, so it's going to be much more difficult to remove this Knife Juggler, as like you mentioned, hiding behind the taunt. Breath used the Bash last turn over the Fiery War Axe swing, just so he'd have free mana this turn, so he could remove a minion with the War Axe and also develop. So it's just better mana utilization over 2 turns.
It's a pretty solid draw, too.
Yeah, with the Blood to Ichor plus the Ghoul, clean up that Knife Juggler that's so troublesome.
It adds up to a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's representing, you know, basically 3 damage on top of its current 2 attack with the hand size from Yulsic there.
We'll use Fiery War Axe to make sure that the Voidwalker is donezo, and then try to even the board state up a little bit here. So for Yulsic, he's been seeing some tools get used, but I think it's hard for him to put a really strong read on what Brett's hand would be right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been the typical opening for Warrior. You expect them to have the Fiery War Axe and then a little bit of removal there. None of the cards remaining from Breath are kept cards from his hand, so they've only just been there for the, the first 4 turns of the game. So very difficult to figure out this range.
Yeah, with very little opportunity, I think, to have used Slam or to have utilized Execute. I think they're all pretty equally likely right now.
Yeah. I still agree with Yulsic here. This is the best play. You just got to stabilize this Councilman, try and give it the highest opportunity for success. Take the onboard trade.
I like the trade here too, because the only thing he can really hedge against is an Execute here. It would force Breath to have an Activator to go on with it. And now when he sees Harrison Jones, this is where he can start to develop that read. And Malkazar Zimp with Doomguard.
That's a combo.
It is a pretty big one too.
Yeah, that is really good. And
I mean, Malkazar Zimp in this spot is 1 mana, 1/3, draw 2 cards basically.
Yeah, that's a good card. I'd play that one.
And he's discarding 2 pretty low value cards. These are digging him closer to the Doomguards and the Soulfires.
Yeah, discarding exactly what you want to discard. Well, not exactly what you want to discard. You'd really want to discard Silverware Golem, but the second best thing in this kind of matchup is, 1-drops, low-impact creatures. I do think you take the trade here. Just try and protect your Councilman. Make sure that it can't get value traded into by the Harrison Jones, which then eats another minion.
A little bit stronger, I think, versus Brawl, maybe? Have a higher chance of keeping something on your side? Where right now, Brawl, if you go face, Breath would have a 25% chance to basically win the game with Brawl.
Well, you could take a 33% chance to win the game. Trade the
take a 30,
Councilman first and then Brawl. So, yeah, Brawl is a scary thing potentially as well.
Have Execute pretty easy, I'd say, for Breath this turn. But that Councilman staying on board is terrifying.
Not really a great way to deal with it on following turns either. Surprised you didn't maybe try and...
Oh my gosh, that is a huge draw for Yulsic right now. That is so good.
It's the Soulfire to the dome.
And there is not a Brawl in Breath's hand right now. And look at Breath's face.
It's all in by Yulsic pretty much. Let's see, is he going to extend even more? I think it's right just to hold back. You've got enough out there for Brawl. If your opponent has Brawl, they're going to do it. So good identification there by Yulsic, realizing the state of the game.
There's almost nothing for Breath right now.
Yeah, the Grom doesn't actually trade with anything. The Execute's not live. He has to take a really slow turn. Revenge is so close to being active. He needs to get down to 12 to try and make it live, but not quite there yet. I think it might honestly just be, Grom into the 3/3, eat a little bit more damage, activate your Revenge, then try and get a good swing turn with Revenge Ironforge Portal.
Breath needs 5 damage
yeah,
to end the game. And now he needs less than that. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He needs 4 damage.
And he's already got, potentially just that with the Dark Peddler if it picks up a minion. No, he doesn't have the board space.
We're looking at Abusive Sergeant, Defender of Argus,
Direwolf
Alpha, Soulfire, Power Overwhelming, Elven Archer. I mean, the Peddler can fetch a wide range of things that will end the game here.
Sure, yeah.
But you're right, he doesn't have the board space to just straight up play 4 minions.
Yeah, he has 4 minions, but he can't play 4 minions. Do any of these do it? Not quite. Shifter is usually the one you take just because it can oftentimes turn into a really high value card, but he was really hoping to try and find the lethal. Yeah, Breath is out of breath. Trouble breathing at the moment. Oh, tough situation.
I mean, he knows this is a colossal risk to
take. And he's good on him taking big risks on this stage in the elimination match. That takes guts.
It's tough to do, but if that's the only way you're going to win, that's the chance you got to take.
He's getting rewarded for it right now. Surely Revenge is going to be active after this, and he's going to have some cute Sylvanas plays.
There's damage. Breath.
He can swing this board. He's still in this game.
And Bash gets drawn as well.
He can take the big Councilman with the Bash if he wants to. And try and set up lethal for the following turn almost. He would have 12 damage from the burst if he takes the larger Councilman.
What about push for 5, execute the Sylvanas Bash?
Yeah, if he executes the, you don't execute the Sylvanas, but you can execute the 1-2, push for 5,
sorry,
bash, and set up lethal with Grom the following turn.
Execute the small Councilman and the Bash on Sylvanas. That's where I was going with that.
You gain 1 less armor though. You would be at 6 health, so you die to like Direwolf Alpha Doomguard that way. But you would be setting up lethal for the following turn, so it's tough to tell which line is clearly better, but.
I mean, this line looks like it gets in there a large portion of the time, too.
Yeah, he's got good tools to just control the board after this and tank up out of reach, but he already took 1 risky play. And so now he's leaning back, taking the safer approach. Justicar Trueheart is interesting. Taps are a little expensive at the moment. You get a little discount, heal some life.
6-3.
You get a 6-3. It's not, I mean, it's not what you want for 6 mana, but.
Yeah, that's what that glowing minion is. It's Shifter's Eras. It's not just a...
Yeah, he's not just hard-running Justicar Trueheart.
It's the ghost of Justicar Trueheart.
And can't tap for lethal for anything. Doomguard is 1 out of range because of the way Breath played that turn. Take it super defensively just to make sure that no Doomguard was going to get him.
I've never seen that happen before. I've never seen that,
you ever played
upgraded hero power.
Justicar Zoo for the memes?
Never seen that.
I don't remember what it's called, but I have played it before.
Breath, this is...
He can wait no longer.
This is a strong turn for Breath. He's clearing the entire board state, setting up 10 power.
And maintaining that life total just outside of range. Yulsic would have to play Doomguard and then buff it to be able to get enough damage to kill him at this stage.
And the Ooze, not helpful in the later stages. That is an early game tech card that he's looking to use. Breath may have turned the corner here. It is just load up the board for Yulsic and hope, but hope is going to come crashing down as Breath has tools to answer the board and begin his own assault and stabilize his life total.
Digging for lethal. He's 1 point of damage away. Again, the card draw looking for Fiery War Axe. Gonna have to settle for clearing the board.
Yeah, clear the board, deal you 10.
It's not bad.
All right, I'll take it.
You don't win just yet, but you basically do. There isn't really a way for Yulsic.
Checkmate.
Yeah, it's checkmate.
I mean, he can live. He can live for a turn or so, but
it's going to come down to the final game. Every series we've cast thus far has always come down to the final game.
We should just cast every series.
I don't know. That'd be a long tournament then.
I like 7-game sets. Those are sweet.
It's going to be Face Hunter up against Warlock the last game, which was, we've seen already in the tournament happen once between BB Gun and Naiman. Remember that series? We casted that one.
Yep.
That was the final game in that series as well. It's an epic one.
The truth is in here.
He risks it. He has to risk it.
He has to risk it. The only line that keeps him alive. Play until the end.
Good old Chillwind Yeti.
Yeah, the most standard, basic 4-drop.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way Yulsic's getting 21 points of damage here. This is just, what a comeback from Breath in this game. Taking the huge risk with Sylvanas to try to stabilize.
That was a crazy risk.
And when that succeeded, decided no more risks, it's time to slow it down.
And then played safe around the Doomguard top deck from Yulsic. You know,
strong call. I mean, for Breath to have that kind of foresight after the initial risk succeeds.
Oh, yeah, and on the big stage, too. Like, 70% of the time about, he loses on the spot with that play, but it actually gives him a chance to win. And on the big stage, 1 game away from elimination, Breath's got the stones.
And now, when you're in Yulsic's spot, what are you feeling? Breath, just a miraculous turnaround so far. A decider game number 7 between these two. One is moving on, the other is going home. I'm so glad. And that's what they're competing for. It's not just a trophy, that's a title.
Oh, yeah.
World champion.
BlizzCon World Champion. The greatest card slinger in the world.
God, can you imagine what that must feel like?
I have no idea. It must be amazing. I can only dream of it.
Yeah. I mean, if I just got lucky to win a world championship, it wouldn't quite feel the same.
Is this a shot? What?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was you. Game 7, Breath. The Face Hunter build here, this is where this is where things I think get super interesting. Is the Hunter builds have been either looking tremendous or falling by the wayside. He's still looking at me for the shot here.
Typically speaking, Hunter has an edge in the matchup. You get your slight advantage with your explosive traps and your Unleash the Hounds that can really punish the big board state of the Zoo Warlock player. But there are some tech choices here in Yulsic that actually work out pretty well. That Acidic Swamp Ooze, it was teched in for the Control Warrior matchup. Removing a bow on the early stage can be a super big tempo swing that can really help him out.
He's got to get to that point first. Secret Keeper has got to be one of the scarier ones for him to face down.
Allows Breath to have really strong board position on turn 1, which isn't often indicative of Hunter.
Just needed to find a replacement for Undertaker.
Yeah, there you go. Explosive Trap isn't really the trap he wants to utilize to buff it, but it might work out all right in him because it does bluff Snake a little bit, and maybe you can get some work done that way.
Be curious to see how Breath chooses to play this. I mean, this would be an awfully big bluff at the moment. And with the Cloaked Huntress drawn, this is going to be quick shot, I think.
Yeah, just quick shot, try and protect your Secret Keeper. Poke 1 damage to the face. You extend a little bit into Direwolf Alpha that way, but the risk is worth it because the Cloaked Huntress tempo swing with the free secret later on. So, yeah, I like that line of play from Breath there. Yulsic has the ability to get a huge tempo swing here, 1 and 3. That could just be game right there. That is so huge. It's so much extra damage, so much extra that Breath has to deal with so quickly. And Yulsic's able to maintain cards in his hand. Key cards, Doomguard and Defender of Argus.
That's such a big deal.
He still has to play with fire a little bit here. He really wants to keep Defender of Argus as it is a taunt minion, but he's most likely forced into a situation where he's got a Soulfire here.
I mean, I think Soulfire's looking pretty great here. It's not getting much better than that.
Yulsic has a lot of traps to navigate. He's got to think about Cat Trick. He's got to think about Explosive Trap. He's got to think about Freezing Trap, and he has to think about Snake Trap. So 4 potential traps that it could be.
Now, why would your opponent attack your Malkazar, Zim?
Explosive Trap?
Well, Freezing Trap certainly isn't one, so I think he can rule that out.
I think it's very easy to... Unless it's a bluff. Is it a mind game?
That'd be a really sick bluff.
I mean, Brett's shown he has the ability to take risks. When the man that has the ability to take risks is a man that has the ability to bluff.
That's true. It's very true. Yulsic is...
He's afraid of the freeze? He's going to fire off the Soulfire first.
I like firing the Soulfire first, for sure.
A Defender of Argus gone is very costly. It's one of the only ways you can get reasonably sized taunt minions in the deck.
Find out what the second one is momentarily. The Malkazar Zip's dying no matter what. I think I like the Malkazar Zip attack first.
Yeah, just to test for freezing. Because if it's explosive, it dies anyway.
Right.
So, yeah. I support you there.
We'll find Explosive, and then Direwolf Alpha push 4.
Really aggressive approach with the Direwolf Alpha there. Instead of the Dark Peddler.
I think I like it, actually. You don't know what you're going to need from the Dark Peddler just yet.
Sure. Keep more options open. Same thing with the Raven Idol logic. Makes a lot of sense. Second Doomguard, not what you want to see.
Traveling packs.
I mean, 1 might be enough to get the job done, though.
That's what I'm thinking. And honestly, if he doesn't play everything from his hand this turn, which he's probably going to, but if he doesn't, he has a 33% chance to just keep a Doomguard. So I actually would like to see him just play the Voidwalker and pass.
Yeah, the Possessed Villager doesn't do a lot. Can open you up to Unleash as well, so I wouldn't hate it, but I also can fully support just going all in with the Possessed Villager, assuming 66% of the time the Doomguard's gone anyway, so let's get some extra power out of it and just look to be consistent, because he is in a headboard position.
I don't like that because it's a 66% chance. Or I'm sorry, 100% of the time you get 1 extra power here.
Yeah.
The other way, 33% of the time you get 5 extra power charging later. I'm going for my extra power later.
He's ahead. Just be consistent when you're ahead, right?
Well, you got to figure out what that 1/1 means. I'm going for the second Doomguard personally.
I think just the incremental advantage is enough to win you the game from the position.
I think the board says it all, really.
The board's big. It's really tough for Breath to come back on this board with only 2 cards.
And this was the game that he most needed.
Yeah.
Of all of these. He fought back so hard in the last 2 games, and now in this one, having Explosive Trap be his only one to buff, where the Snake Trap would have been fantastic. He's got no Unleash, he's got no card draw, he's dealt very little damage.
Is there any argument that maybe with the Cloaked Huntress you're supposed to not even play the Explosive Trap? He had a Secret Keeper and a Cloaked Huntress. Was it ever right hold the Explosive Trap for more value later?
That's a really strong point.
Like, you could have gotten so much more value out of it and stopped so much more damage later. Maybe got a little bit trigger happy with it. It's one of those things that's so hard to think about, but long-term wise, Explosive Trap's not meant in this matchup for +1/1 to Secret Keeper and just an early game tempo thing. It's meant to be basically a finisher because it heals you for, yeah, look, if Explosive Trap was up on this board, look at how much it heals you for. 11 health. So it's very interesting.
Well, Yulsic buys into the fact that he thought this was second Explosive Trap and triggers the Snake Trap instead. That's exactly what Breath was going for. So this may buy him some more time.
Sure, and now he's just either, he has another chance to try and draw the Explosive Trap or another chance to maybe find Unleash, start cleaning up this board state.
What do the Doomguards have to say about that, though?
At Doomguard.
One of them's not saying nothing if one gets played. The other one's just shutting up.
I mean, I personally think you slam it right next to that Dire Dog and start pushing for 6 a turn.
I do not disagree with that.
Yeah, and I think you just ignore these snakes. He is going to take a few trades with the snakes, though, try and shut them down a little bit. Helps play around Direwolf Alpha a little bit better. Explosive Trap is huge! There's still going to be an additional 5 damage coming through. But, you know, that's 4 additional damage for Breath that he gets to push this turn. Could even play the Dire Dog and push for 2. Kind of like holding on to it for the Unleash potential, but I wouldn't fault him for just playing it.
What would that 2 damage mean? That's my question. I think he's got to hold on to it. Because if he just plays it here, he's giving it away to a minion that's already dying for 1 point of damage.
Yeah, and 1 point of damage isn't enough. He needs multiple turns if he's going to close out this game. Because all Yulsic has to do is just attack him with the Doomguard over the next 2 turns. He doesn't need to tap. He doesn't need to do anything. So you need to actually get some value out of your cards, force Yulsic into a situation where he has to tap to compete with your cards, and then maybe you can get a win here.
Well, Flame Imp is...
That's a dead draw. Well...
It depends on how this ends up going. So Yulsic, obviously he's going to trade over this. Here's where he starts the push. Silverware Golem, first slated. Totally reasonable. He's going to find his Explosive Trap, push Breath down to 4, and be at 15 himself. If he goes to 12, is there any combination of cards that he loses to? 1 quick shot's already down. So it would be quick shot into ...
Yeah, there's nothing that can kill him on the mana total. So he's going to tap and go for playing the card off the top, though. Which I think is better than playing the Flame Imp on average.
Unleash the Hounds.
That's a big one.
He can live.
He can live.
Not playing the Flame Imp wouldn't have mattered because one of those Hounds would have been able to trade into that. So now, Breath has 2 power versus 2 power. And Silverware Golem, very strong when your opponent's at 4. And so is Abusive Sergeant. Yulsic gonna draw the damage necessary to close out the series. Breath fights back so hard. But the BlizzCon run comes to an end here for Breath. Yulsic moving on.
He was so close, not able to get there. Yulsic played very well. Piloted his decks very strong there, able to get the job done with the zoo at the end. Very well played.
So identifying the win condition, trying his hardest to move towards it. There are some situations in there where maybe he could have taken alternative lines, but either way, moving on to face Dr. Hippie in the decider match. Dr. Hippie so far only bested by Amnesiac, who in my opinion has been the strongest performer in the tournament thus far.
Yeah, both of these players at one point got bested by Amnesiac, so they fight for the opportunity to try and join him in the top 8.
Raven is standing by with your winner.
Thanks, Admirable. Huge congratulations to you, Yulsic, on surviving through the tournament, living to fight another day. Really, I just want to know, what does it feel like to know you've got only one more match away from representing Hong Kong at the big stage at BlizzCon next week?
佢問你啊，而家你剩翻一個喺香港代表嘅，你覺得點樣？
好興奮。
Oh, he's very excited.
Not surprised at all. That series, you were up quite a lot. You were ahead throughout most of it, but then there was a chance at Breath coming back as he took it to the final game. Did you think you could get the game with Zoo eventually, or were you a little bit worried about how the series was going to end up?
So 開頭啊，你贏緊3對1啊，但係啊，阿 Breath 追翻嚟，你係咪驚啊？你用阿 Zoo deck 啊，可能會輸啊？
我覺得輸咗咁多場都係時候贏翻一場。
He believes that he lost the previous 2 matches beforehand, so he thinks it's time for him to win with the Zoo lock.
That's fair enough. So congratulations again. We have our final series of the day coming up right now.